place at the table. I am the CEO of Jewel Enterprise, an organizational development consultancy firm out of Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm also the president of the Maryland Black Caucus Foundation. And today I'm excited because we have a wonderful group of women who are joining us for this conversation. But you'll notice that my co-host, Margaret Locklear, is not with us today. We wish her a speedy recovery and look forward to her being with us in the near future. But what I would like is for these wonderful ladies to introduce themselves so that you'll have an opportunity to know who's at the table today. Won't you start with Florence Galone?
Hi, I'm Bawan. I am an actress, singer, and model, and also a proud mom.
Hi, I am Nancy. I have worked as an advertising account executive and a communications manager for political campaigns. And although I remain a fierce and advocate for civil and human rights, I have since retired into a retirement gig as a flight attendant.
Oh, lovely. All right, and Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a fitness and wellness expert, actress, model, and a mom as well.
Wonderful. Great panel today. So we've got 3 hot topics to talk about, and we're going to jump right in on our first one, which is a very large area. We're going to look at the issue of homelessness. Now, the number of people and families experiencing homelessness in Maryland actually decreased 10% between 2015 and 2016, according to a recent HUD report. There were 3,007 homeless people and families in 2015 and 2,706 in 2016. So, and homelessness among veterans in the state was down 22.2% in the same span, according to data as recent as November 2016. So these statistics actually indicate a decrease in homelessness, but do you get a sense that they're accurate?
I don't think that they're very accurate. How do you accurately pull the statistics? Because the majority of your homeless are not able to report. You're pulling from people who are on welfare and what you can get as far as canvassing. But the numbers, I can go down the street and probably count more than 1,000 to 2,000 people in one day. So I can't agree that they're accurate.
What do you think, Nancy?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the numbers are accurate, but I just don't think that, I agree with Juan there. I don't know how you would report the homelessness. I mean, you can be homeless and I don't have a place to live, but I'm, kind of staying on my brother's couch or, and you don't have to be in the street. So I agree that there's been a lot of, people are just now picking back up with getting jobs and even the jobs that they get, they still aren't able to, pay a rent. So I think that the numbers are a lot higher probably, but I can't say for sure if they've decreased.
Sure. Nicole, what do you think?
I think it's great that the statistics show that Maryland's rate in homelessness has gone down. However, I think it's still a terrible problem in our country. There's more than 500,000 people homeless in our country, and Hawaii, California, and New York being the top 3 worst offenders in amounts of people, quarter of them being children. I just think it's a huge problem that we need to figure out how to help these people.
Exactly, and when you talk about the national statistic of 500,000 people are homeless, and that can be daunting. But then when you look at America, we are so wealthy as a country. Why do we still have this issue of homelessness?
Selfishness.
Greed.
We are a very capitalistic society, and if we cannot see a way to benefit from something while helping someone, we have a tendency not to help. If I reach out my hand to you and you can't pull me up and I'm the only one who's giving, it typically does not work for us, even though that's the solution. We have a lot of tax cuts. Where is that money going? Why is it not being put into buildings that are abandoned that we can turn into, income housing? Why are the requirements for affordable housing so strict? And why is the threshold, again, so thin? So,
Affordable housing is a huge part of the problem. I mean, to find a place for a family to live that is affordable is near impossible these days.
It's critically, it's a critical issue. What do you think?
I don't think the spotlight is put on homeless. A lot of times when you listen to politicians, you hear them saying, the middle class, and it's almost like, we ignore those that are really homeless, like poverty, and it's almost made to look like it's their fault. And I think that then when you start to strip programs that would help them, I think it just becomes a domino effect where it gets worse and worse for them, and then they're living on the streets. But they would rather run a commercial about helping an animal, a dog, than to actually run. You don't see many commercials about let's help these homeless people. You don't see much advertising around that or anything. So I don't think the spotlight is there. I think that the problem just gets worse.
And you're exactly right. And how do we deal with the issue of apathy around homelessness? Because I'll be honest, I'm from Baltimore City, and every corner there's someone panhandling. And you just become numb after a while, because I'm just like, I can't take this in. I can't, and I can't give everybody $1, because if I do, I'm not going to have anything, right? So it just can be very overwhelming.
well, I know for me, this is a pretty sensitive topic because my company, Beloved, this is what we're centered around. When you talk about giving $1 to each person and trying to feed every person on the street, it really starts to pull on heartstrings, to be completely honest, and you can't help everyone. But where are the programs? Where are the government programs? Where are the people who should be assigned to this area, who can go in with, the vans riding down the street and pick these people up and take them to soup kitchens and take them to, places where they can stay and provide the facilities and provide the resources that they need? We just don't seem to have the funding and, the agencies to do so.
I think one of the biggest problems is, as a nation as a whole, we've become so isolated. We don't live in communities anymore. So many of us live in a community, live in a neighborhood. We don't know our neighbors.
Yeah.
And we don't live by our families a lot of times. And so there isn't that support for people like we used to have. And with that isolation, everything becomes harder.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I know I hate to throw leftovers away, and I've done it, and I look sometimes and I don't even know if my neighbor is starving, and I'm throwing leftovers out, and that's bothersome. And I have a friend of mine who's a manager at a fast food restaurant. At the end of the night, they throw all of that food away, and I think and they're required to, exactly. I think that something should be done where they would be able to feed some of these people. I mean, that food you were going to sell it at $10.59. At $11.01, it should still be. You should still be able to give it to someone if they're hungry. So, but I agree with you 100% that where life is down here anymore, and it's not out here, and so we're not looking at our neighbors, or we're not trying to help the most vulnerable in our communities.
And you raise a great point, because it goes back to what are the things that we can do, small things that we can do to help address very large issues. So, for example, finding the program that actually helps pick up the homeless and takes them to the fast food restaurant right at 11:59 every night. And then when it hits midnight, they gladly come out the back and give them all the food, right? Now, that's not a difficult thing, because the restaurants would do it if they had the people right there to give it to. What they can't do is give it to you to transport to the people.
Right.
And you know, there are ways in which they can actually leave that food for them. They may not be able to physically hand it to them because of the legality with that, but they can put it out in a box, and then if they get the box, then they can have the food. So there are all types of ways in which you can get around the red tape, if you will, if we're willing to think about out of the box and think about how do we actually work together to address this issue. And we're going to bring it to a close in a moment, but one of the things that I didn't hear anybody mention, when you look at homelessness, one of the most critical issues is the fact that these people are dealing with mental illness, or they're dealing with drug addiction. They're dealing with ancillary issues, which are major issues that need to be addressed. And if you address that issue, then you can get to the issue of homelessness. Because if you don't address the root cause, they're going to remain homeless.
So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so we have to look at the root cause of homelessness. And one of the other things that we really have an opportunity to do in this country is have a national movement around homelessness, just like they do, as one of you said, about the animals. You know, they have all of the programs that allow you to sponsor, pay $24 a month to support and keep a dog or a cat alive. Well, we need to be able to say, pay $24 and help a person, a human, be able to get a home in America. I actually believe that there are many of us that would make that pledge to help a fellow citizen keep their dignity, keep their respect, and feel like they are a part of America as well.
I agree.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, well, we are committed to this issue. We want to talk more about this issue, but right now what we're going to do is take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, it's time for our second topic, and today we're going to be talking about the future of the Me Too movement. So the Me Too movement is a movement against sexual harassment and assault. It followed soon after the public revelations of sexual misconduct allegations against Harvey Weinstein, a prolific producer in Hollywood. Now, thousands of women have cried out in almost every industry saying Me Too and sharing their stories of sexual harassment. And there have been many companies that have begun to address this issue. And one of the more prominent people that we know who was removed was Matt Lauer for this particular issue, but there have been many. And so the real question is, you know, what happens next? Now that women have raised their voices, what do we think? What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I think we need to continue to talk about it. I also think this piggybacks on another issue we have of salary discrepancy between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they go hand in hand. I think if we have equal salaries,
Mm-hmm.
we aren't going to have so many problems with the sexual harassment.
Mm-hmm.
With power comes sexual harassment. A lot of these issues stem around women who were in lesser positions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel safe to speak up. They were afraid they were going to lose their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed those jobs to be able to put food on the table for their family.
Well, I want to hear from the other panelists on that. Do you all agree? Do you think that that's really part of the issue?
I think that's definitely a part of the issue, especially when you start talking about women in positions. I think it's very vital for women to start taking roles of power and CEO positions and making sure that we're on boards and executives and have a say-so, so that those people, whether it's men or women who are taking advantage, don't feel as liberated. to do so. When you have a voice and you can actually speak up and somebody knows that you're heard, it tends to put a little bit of a barrier between the action. So.
Yeah, I agree that you have to keep making sure that the powerful individuals and the entities that that they are made to take sexual harassment and sexual abuse serious. And there's still the finance industry. There's still industries out here where these women, they're scared to speak. They are scared that someone would even find out that they said anything because they would lose their job. So you have to keep the pressure on these entities to make sure that that they continue to take it serious, and not only that they that there is some consequence, there's some reprimanding, and typically it's losing your advertisers, if you hit them in the dollar, typically, you'll find the corruption and then you'll be able to get it to stop. But I think that women need the resources to be able to come forth and and tell their stories without any repercussions that they'll lose their job and their livelihood.
And you hit on a really key point to me, which is retribution is real.
Yeah.
Retribution is real, and for a lot of these women, retribution means that I'm going to be demoted or I'm going to be fired. And my family is depending upon me bringing this money in, right? And so it really, I think that what I loved about this movement the most is the fact that we had power, the strength in numbers, right? Because, you could feel like you could speak because there's so many other sisters right there around you who were speaking. And so, no, that's my experience too. That's my experience too.
Yep.
And then people can't say it's a lie because we are quick to say that we're lying, right? Am I right about it?
So true.
The more that comes forward.
Yeah. So here's the question. Is the movement gonna die? Is it just gonna fizzle out?
I don't think we let it.
Okay.
I think we keep talking and keep bringing awareness to it. We don't let it as women.
I don't think at this point that it can die. There's no room for it to die. There's too many power players in place. You have Oprah talking about it. You have Wendy talking about it. You have Ellen talking about it. I mean, it's our little girls are seeing this movement and they're picking up on it. So I don't think there's any room for it to die.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Oprah. There's a new day on the horizon. And I think that this is the year of the woman. I think there's going to be a lot of women in powerful places and companies and legislators, and I just believe that there's going to be women to make sure that that it doesn't go away. I just think it picks up momentum and gets stronger because it's a serious issue. Sexual harassment is damaging it can be a lifetime. You steal someone's childhood or when they're working or and they can't go to work in peace. I just can't see it going away. I can't see it.
And so, at this show, what we really like to do is ask people, what can you do about it? Because we got people watching us who are going, I've heard this Me Too. I kind of understand it, but what can I do about it? What do you think are some things that we can do, just regular folks? What can we do about it to support this Me Too?
I think we educate our children to be respectful human beings. A lot of this, we're raising our daughters to be stronger and to use our voices. A lot of times we're not teaching the boys. And I think it starts with our children and just being respectful human beings to each other.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree, raising our sons to understand that this is not just sex. That's not all it is whenever, when you violate someone in this manner. And I think that's really important. But I think that you continue the conversation. Do not be quiet. And let, for all intents and purposes, for Matt Lauer to continue to do this. I think that you have to, don't be quiet. You have to speak up.
I think that especially now that the table is so open and everybody's voice can be heard, is again just keeping the conversation going, keeping it prevalent, and I really don't think that we're going to see it as much because the fear has been put there now. There's repercussions, and if you do this, there's going to be action taken against you. And right now, it's just like when rape started, people didn't believe women. You know, we were scared to speak out for years and years and years. And then there was a turn. And when a woman cried rape, it was, we believe her, and now the man has to stand up in court and prove his case. And that's what we're starting to see now. And
So we have made strides with the Me Too movement, and it's here to stay. And we're going to continue to lift it up and make certain that it's a critical issue that we women discuss at the table. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. So it's time for our third topic. We're going to talk about political attorneys. And specifically, we're going to focus in on Michael Cohen. So on April 9th, 2018, the FBI raided the office of Michael Cohen, a personal lawyer and confidant of President Donald Trump. If law enforcement officials believe that they have evidence of a crime that involves communication between Cohen and Trump, the president's attorney could be called to testify against his client. So there are some questions with this situation. Do you think it was appropriate for Mueller to have had the local state's attorney's office in New York raid Michael Cohen in the first place? What do you think?
I absolutely think that they should have raided the office. Cohen has been called Donald Trump's fixer. And to me, that means that you go and silence people, or you're fixing things that probably in an illegal manner, or you're paying someone $130,000 to keep shut about infidelity or whatever. But I believe that it's deeper than that. New York went against Trump 9-1 because they know that he has been a very, very slimy businessman. And I think that a lot of things will come out that will show that he's maybe even impeachable. So I definitely think so. I think there's a lot of things going on that the American people really need to know about him. The people that aren't able to see it, to me, a woman would be able to get to the bottom of this very quickly. I just don't see how a lot of people don't see what's going on. But
we need to move the testosterone over to the
Yes,
side and
yes,
bring us
yes,
the estrogen up front.
the
And
hypocrisy of this current administration. I think they absolutely should have.
well, I think it's not that a lot of people don't see what's going on as opposed to turning the blind eye. Especially coming out of the previous administration that we just came out of. The raid, I think, is absolutely necessary. It is time to take the blankets off. It's time to expose. There's been too much going on, too many questions, too many I don't know, and this got covered up, and this is fake news, alternative facts. What's the truth? Show me. I need straight out of the apartment, straight out of the press. I need it hot, fresh.
well, that's good. And that's a good point, because with the whole moniker fake news, in America, we're questioning what we're reading. But what I loved was how Mueller turned that upside down when he came and gave undisputable facts, times, and events to indicate that the Russians interfered in our elections. So I don't care who you are out there, you cannot dispute the fact that our elections were meddled with by the Russians because of the detailed facts that were presented. And so I think that's an interesting point, because you're saying this will allow us to get some facts and begin to know what is fake news versus what is real. What do you think about it, Nicole?
I agree. I think there should be transparency. And if there's something to hide, why?
Mm.
Why is this such a big deal that it was rated?
Mhm.
And what is there to be hiding?
Mhm. Exactly.
And he just invoked the Fifth Amendment. So that should tell you, you have something to hide.
Yeah, and that he invoked, my understanding is he invoked the Fifth Amendment around anything, testimony relating to
The
Stormy Daniels.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, ma'am.
So, but they gonna find it. They
Yes,
gonna find, they,
yes.
they already found it.
Yes,
We just don't
yeah.
know what it is. yet.
Right,
We
right.
just don't know what it is.
That Mueller, and I think he seems to be a very stand-up guy, and so the Southern District of New York and Mueller, I think they're gonna get to the bottom of this, and, you know, whether you wanna believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff going on that is illegal.
One of the positive things that have come from Trump's administration is we are talking about women's issues. It has brought up the Me Too movement. We had one of the largest gatherings in DC and around the world, and along with the Billy Bush incident, with grabbing areas of the body that should not be touched.
Mhm.
I think it's a good thing that good things have come out of this, and it's raising awareness, and we're talking about issues that have needed to be spoken about for a long time.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And, you know, one of the things that I like about looking at this is it's like the dominoes are laid up and you just hit it and all of them go, you know, they're all starting to fall in place because we as women are feeling empowered enough to begin to say, no, we don't support these types of actions for our president or any man. And we have the right to talk about it. But there are some people who argue that political attorneys should be protected. You know, if you're an attorney for the president or a high political official, that you should be untouchable. Do you all think that's right?
Wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
And justice for one is justice for all. And we like to chant it and we say one nation under God. Are you exempt of that one nation? Are you on a nation by yourself? I mean, team I, and from what I heard, there's no I in team. So how can you govern me if you're not for me? I don't understand that, and I never will. And I think, honestly, with the firing of Michael Cohen, it's bringing light to all of the dysfunctionalities within the administration. And we're getting down to the root cause and the foundation and what's really going on.
Excellent. All right, well, you know what? We could talk all day about this topic because it's deep. It's a deep one. Lots of layers here. But believe it or not, a whole lot. But believe it or not, our time has come to an end. It just goes so quickly. I tell you, we just have great conversation. And so we're going to bring this show to a close, but I want you to remember that there's always a place at the table for each and every one of you, and I'm so grateful that you have decided to join me today. So I want to say thank you to Nicole, thank you to Nancy, and thank you to Balan for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us at a place at the table. I'm Jules Dunham Howie. I've been your host, and I look forward to seeing you next time.